I get asked quite a lot about how I choose what products get featured on Stu's reviews. Some products get featured because they're popular, some because they perform excellently, some because the price is unbelievably cheap for the experience it provides. But some get featured because the design is just so good, it would be rude not to. Like this. From Noorio. This is the Noorio Spotlight Cam Pro, a security camera with an almost perfect spherical design. It's completely wireless, connecting to Wi-Fi, and features a 2K video feed. It has an internal battery and memory, along with a motion activated spotlight and IP66 weatherproofing, which should give it total protection in almost all elements. The design of this thing is positively excellent, but what makes it so good is the combination of camera and the base. In every other camera that I've tried, it's always some really awkward mounting system that involves tripod screws like the Eufy system, or weird force pop mechanisms like in the Blink cameras. This simply magnetizes to a small puck that is actually super easy to mount in its own right with 2 screws and a twisting on mounting plate. The magnet in this puck is really strong and holds this quite heavy camera very firmly, and actually takes quite a good tug to get it off. Wait. It does have a screw thread on the back, however, the mounting system with the magnetic puck is just so good I find it hard to believe that anyone would want to use anything other than that method, unless maybe for added security. Perhaps the closest camera that I've experienced this type of mounting was the old Arlo ones that had a magnetic mounting ball on the actual bit that goes against the wall, but this is far better. And what makes it better is the ability to be positioned in nearly any way in rotation that you can think of while staying relatively close to the wall. And once it's in position, you aren't going to be restricted in terms of its movement, unlike in the Arlo system. Let's say the camera was rectangle, then that may impact the angle that you can put it at due to the bottom hitting the wall or the top hitting the ceiling. With the Noorio being round, when it's in position, this is the entirety of the space that it's going to take up, so it gives you full movement. It only really has one downside to being this shape, and that's the fact that being round, it hasn't got a solar panel built into the design. But then it just wouldn't be efficient, would it? But then, even on the flip side of that, the battery lasts up to 180 days, which is not bad. You could potentially pair it up with an external solar panel too through the little section at the back. However, I've been unable to test this because it's been snowing for the past week whilst filming this episode.
Oh well.
I can't overstate how beneficial this design is for the positioning and ease of use of the camera, and how good this thing actually looks as a security camera. But obviously the design might as well be pointless if the hardware functionality isn't up to scratch. The camera shoots video in 2K, so quality-wise it's more than enough to capture detail in the image, enough certainly to zoom in slightly. And when it comes to night vision, it uses either a spotlight for colour night vision or infrared, which is excellent quality actually.
Hello.
Now, to detect motion, it uses a built-in PIR, but it also features AI detection too, which can detect and notify the difference between motion or an actual person in front of the cameras. And it also has a built-in siren for audible deterrent as well, which activates on that motion. Now, interestingly, within the app, the way that you set activity zones so that you can only focus on specific areas within the footage is perhaps the best I've come across. In every other system I've tried, it's based on square zones where you have to select individual squares. Whereas with this, you can actually add points and almost mask the entire area that you want perfectly, no matter what shape it is. This is absolutely game-changing, and I don't know why more companies don't do this, because it's by far the best way of doing it. Now, naturally, I had to think of an engaging test to see how well this motion detection and AI works. I think you're going to like it. To test the motion detection, I've asked Ryan to try and break into the country club to grab this lovely glass of beer off a table next to me right here. However, if the camera, which is seated currently above me, detects his motion and the alarm sounds or my app goes off, then I get to shoot him with this, a 50 cal paintball gun.
Stu decided it'd be fun to shoot with a paintball gun. So let's see how this goes.
Okay, the camera is now armed, and he has to get from over there to this beer without being triggered.
Yeah, come work with me, he said. It'd be great fun.
The clever little sausage is moving around the top left to avoid the activity zone that he saw me setting up earlier.
Nothing really big enough to attach myself to. You're doing well.
So, now that's done, we can safely say that it performs exactly as intended. And rather successfully too, might I add. Oh, that's a good beer. Now, there's two ways to review the previous footage that we took during this. One is through the events tab at the bottom, and the second is through an events timeline when looking at each individual camera. These can be then favorited and downloaded directly to the phone. What's quite cool is that I can also take a snapshot from a video by pushing the bottom left button, which is something that I don't think I've seen before. Normally, you'd have to use whatever OS you're in and actually screenshot the entire app and then crop the image. But this is actually a really handy feature if you want to take snapshots from a video just for reference. Perhaps you want to take a snapshot of some thieves and send that to the police, or perhaps you just want to take a snapshot to remember that time you shot your studio assistant with a paintball gun. The rest of the app is just as nicely designed, with a relatively straightforward feature set such as controlling system arming or disarming of all or individual cameras based on manual or scheduling geofencing status. Although much of the feature set isn't anything groundbreakingly new, I do like the overall feel and simplicity of the app. It's all very rounded, a bit like the camera. But perhaps one of the best things about the entirety of the software is that none of it is hidden behind a paywall. I've tried a few systems now, like the Arlo or Blink, which hide really integral things like rich notifications or AI detection behind paywalls, which really me off. With Noorio, everything is accessible without having to pay. The only thing that they have behind a paywall is cloud storage, which to be honest is completely reasonable. It's also affordable at only $3 per month for a peace of mind if you need to back up your footage. But overall, it's been a fantastic experience, so much so that I think now this is going to be used in my security setup inside the cellar. But that doesn't mean that it's been flawless. From a hardware perspective, it's been pretty bloody good, but there are a couple of software changes that I would love to see in the future from Noorio. The first is that I want the ability to change the recording quality, which at the moment you aren't able to do with inside the app. Instead, it automatically records in 2K, which is fine, because you'll probably want the highest resolution possible, but there are some circumstances where you might prefer a lower resolution, like if you had it in high traffic areas where you don't want the camera to fill up with memory, or perhaps there's an area where there's poor signal and you want quicker access to the footage. And the second is that I want to see more smart home integration. It's excellent in terms of its internal functionality, and it currently connects to the Alexa system, so you can build in routines and automations directly through that. But at the time of this review, that's the only natively supported system. It would be great to see Noorio support further systems as time goes on. And thankfully, that sort of thing can be added through software updates, as would the ability to change the recording quality. So, I guess a quick message to Noorio: add these in, and you've got a pretty much perfect product. Because overall, I think the systems that Noorio are providing have beautifully simplistic software, are fantastically designed, and I'm genuinely excited to see what they come up with next. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you want to see me shoot my studio assistant again with a paintball gun. And I'll see you back for another episode of Stu's Reviews soon. You did!